Hey, thanks for coming. I'm Steph.
And I'm Rania.
And welcome to Setting the Table, a podcast for all the after-dinner conversations. And on today's table, we have young motherhood, all the highs and lows. I became a mom at 19. It was a couple weeks before I turned 20 that I became a mom. And I think it's so funny because I always thought I was going to be a young mom.
Really?
Yeah, I always thought I would have my first kid by 20.
Oh my God.
I just always thought I would. And then when it actually happened, I felt like I was hit with all the societal standards and expectations and preconceived judgments.
It's immediate. It's like, congratulations.
It's also funny because I got married at 19 and had my first baby when I was 19. So people always assume, everyone's like, oh, so you got married because you got pregnant, right? And
We've gotten the same thing. I had my first kid the month after I turned 21. And so I got married at 20. I didn't know if I was even going to be a mom or get a chance to become a mom. Yeah, because I only have one of my ovaries. Mm-hmm. I've always had like irregular periods and PCOS. And so I was always told kind of that might be a problem for me. And so it wasn't even something on my mind because we were so young. So I was like, oh, we have years to figure out if we want to have kids and how intervention could come into play and all that stuff.
Okay.
And then after we're married, find out I'm pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I remember freaking out.
Really?
Absolutely freaking out. I had
in
no
a good
idea.
or bad way?
In a bad way.
Okay.
I was not okay.
Really?
Because Caleb had already decided at that point to go into the military. So I knew I wasn't going to have him. He's already signed the paperwork. We already committed to this. We just got married. So now it's instead of just being oh yeah, we can crash on people's couch and live with family. And it's now you have to think about another human being. It's you can kind of live this young and free life. But when there's a kid in play, you've got to get it together. You need to figure out what you want to do for work.
Yeah, that's funny because I feel like I was in such a different place. I feel like I went into it very prepared and ready for the responsibility. It then hit me like a truck, but I felt like I went into it I want to have a kid. I was very intentional about the job. I was becoming a mortgage loan officer. I was getting my license to do that and was kind of lining everything up. We'd gotten married. We were living in our own apartment situation and was kind of lining everything up to have a kid.
It's you got to set up the nursery.
Yes.
And all of that stuff. Yeah, I did not get that experience at all.
Yeah.
It's we're living at my in-laws and we're living in I think the measurements are literally 10 by 9 foot room. It was
God.
Caleb's childhood room.
Wow.
Which it was nice. It had a bathroom.
I don't know about you, but I felt when I got pregnant, the change, that transition from you're a young and free teenager to a mother, the second I found out I was pregnant, the responsibility
immediate.
And there was a huge shift. It was the literal shift from maiden to motherhood. Immediate. And I even felt people treated me very differently from the second I was pregnant. There were people that were oh, you're pregnant at 19, and that was just kind of looked down on, obviously. And then there was just kind of a demand for me to show up in a different way, I felt like. I remember specifically going over to my mom's house and having a conversation with her and my stepdad. It was kind of well, now you're mature because you're pregnant. But I was the same person, considered immature for as long as I wasn't pregnant.
There's no in between. It's immature, and then the next day you're pregnant.
You're a mother.
You need to get it together.
Which I feel like I stepped into that role and took on the responsibility well, because I've always been the one to take on responsibility and just power through things and do what I want. And I always said, obviously it was heavily influenced by the church I grew up in and the environment, but I always said I wanted to be married by 19 and have my first kid by 20.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Me doing that was standing on business, actually. I did it, it was what it was.
It was I had such a complete opposite experience to that. I grew up second oldest, but kind of the oldest sibling. Yeah. And so I had a lot of responsibility and taking care of kids and changing diapers and doing that I just wanted to get married and enjoy being together and not have so much responsibility for once, just focus on myself and my husband. And
I wonder if it's because I grew up on the opposite end where I wasn't an oldest sibling. I was the youngest girl. So wasn't growing up taking care of babies.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
then I was
you would think you're like
babysitting.
you're the youngest. You would be more like carefree instead of like you're very responsible.
I wouldn't say I regret having kids so young, but I did have to grieve the life that I could have had I not had kids so young, because at the time that I got married, or really before I was dating him, you know, because it kind of like I just turned into a whole different person.
Yeah.
But like when I was 16 and 17, before I got into that relationship, then I was like a very carefree, creative, adventurous person. I liked to just go out and have fun and try new things. And I think like that could have taken me really far. And then I was kind of thrown into marriage and motherhood so young that like, I don't know, I ended up a different person and better for it.
I think even women that have children older are like also stating the same thing. There's still a process of like grief and maybe even it's fear, because you don't know what to expect. I mean, truly, I could have pictured the motherhood journey going such a different way and went up. You really don't know until you've gone through it. You have no idea.
So when you were pregnant and you're living at your mother-in-law's, did you experience prenatal depression?
Yes, definitely.
Really?
Definitely. And I think, did we have babies around the same time? Like, it was COVID.
I had Evie in 2021.
Oh, okay.
So mid 2021.
Okay. So
I mean, I still had to wear a mask in the hospital, and nobody was allowed at my appointments and stuff, but it wasn't quite as crazy. It wasn't so isolated.
Yeah.
To go out, you know?
For me, it was like, okay, so the timeline was Caleb left in March of 2020, and literally the week he left, everything shut down. So like he left, everything was fine, normal, like nobody had masks on at that, and then he leaves. We don't have contact with him. He like gives us one phone call. He's at like basic training, and then that's it. We don't hear anything from him for a week. So like he lands, and it's like immediately quarantine situation, and then the news is like changing. We're like, we don't know what's happening. Don't go outside. Disinfect your groceries. Like that kind of. You remember how crazy that was? We didn't know anything.
Yeah,
it was like,
we didn't at that point. We didn't know what it was.
No, and then it was like, don't buy masks because the medical professionals need it. So like, rip up your socks and your shirts and stuff, and like make a mask. So like, I remember being pregnant and so scared because they were like, you're immunocompromised when you're pregnant. Like everybody is a little bit immunocompromised, and we don't know the effect on pregnant people. We don't know the effect on babies. We don't know any of this. So I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. I'd go to my appointments, and it was like, I had a high risk pregnancy too, just from like my heart condition. So every appointment was scary, and I had to be alone. It was all anxiety, even just like groceries. I remember having a really hard time. At that point, I was doing grocery deliveries because I didn't want to go into the grocery stores, and there's nothing in stock. Like everything's going, like we didn't know what to do. There's no choice.
That was such
like
a weird time,
right?
I felt like I think I just ate takeout for like 6 months.
Yeah,
because it was like, keep these businesses alive, and I was like, sure.
I was scared to get takeout because I was like, are the boxes gonna have COVID? Because we knew nothing about this. It was just like scary news. I wasn't on TikTok during that time. That's though good. So yeah, thank God for that. I had still had Instagram and Facebook, and like everyone was like, there would be like message chains of like, we found out this about the virus. Just like a lot of fear during that time, and it was already a fearful time for me. Yeah, just being pregnant. Yeah, that was not a fun time at all. And like, I also don't regret like how it happened, and like motherhood or having my son was like the best thing that ever happened to me. But yeah, there is still that like grief, and I feel like a lot of moms are scared to say that, but no, there is still grief. I love this human. I could not imagine my life without like my kids, and it all makes up for it. I mean, like my kid will smile at me, and I'm like, everything's fine. Yeah, the stitches were worth it. Everything.
It's funny because I have had such a hard time explaining to anyone the dichotomy of being a mom and loving every second of it, and also feeling so overwhelmed and so much grief and so much heartbreak constantly, because it is constant, and it's so hard to explain that. But I did see I think I saw a video of a woman talking about motherhood, or maybe it was a podcast, I don't remember, it was a long time ago. She was saying to become a mother is to become beyond yourself. And I thought that was such a good explanation, because like there's no other way to explain how much love and care you have for that person, you can't compare it to anything.
You don't realize the capacity you have for loving somebody until you have this.
And then I felt like it repeated when you have your second kid.
Oh my
and
gosh.
You're pregnant. Like, I don't think I could love another kid.
All the fears start up again.
As much as I love my kid. And then it happens again. But it's so hard to explain.
I remember it being explained to me before I had kids. And I remember thinking, yeah, right. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But all the cliches that you hear are just fact. They're all fact. I remember hearing that like this, you made this little person with somebody that like you love, and they're like half you and half your husband. What?
Sorry, when you said that, I went,
don't tease them about it yet. More to come. At the time.
At the time, there was love in that relationship.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was bad.
The visceral reaction.
Yeah.
Man, if the camera was on.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just incredible. And they're their own person, too. Like, you're like, you have this dream of like, oh, I'm going to dress my kids this way, and they're going to like this, and they're going to like that. And then they're like, they're their own person.
Throw that in the garbage can.
Oh,
Throw all of your expectations in the garbage can.
They're literally their own person. I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And just experiencing things through them. Like, I just...
Yeah. Did you feel like you noticed a difference in the way people treated you?
Yeah, definitely. I got a lot of looks.
Yeah.
Like, especially when my hands swelled too much, I couldn't wear my wedding rings.
Yeah.
Because there was like, oh, you're young and you've got a baby. Like, you just got knocked up. Like, it's just, you're irresponsible.
Oh, yeah.
You don't know what's coming for you. Like, just a lot of those looks in public.
And but again, those comments, did you get those comments too? I would get those comments from people being like, you're way too young to have a kid. Well, I have a kid in my arm, and I'm like, thank you.
Or it's like, I could never do that.
Yeah.
I could never. And that is genuinely one of my biggest pet peeves, is people being like, I don't know how you do that. I could never do that. There's no other choice right now.
Exactly.
I'm just doing it because I have to. It's like, you'll go through like a sickness or something, and they're like, I don't know how you're going through that. The only way is through.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have an option.
The only way is to get through this.
Like,
I recently have started, because people still make those comments to me, and especially now that I'm a young mom and divorced.
Well, you like also still have a baby face. I lost mine years ago. Each pregnancy's taken a lot from me. Now people are like, yeah, you're like 30.
No.
Like, I stopped getting the young mom comments. Like, when I'd go to the doctor, they're just like, the first pregnancy, it was like, I remember getting pamphlets about like, is this a wanted pregnancy? Do you want to have an abortion? They're like explaining like the choices and stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, I'm married. Like, yeah, I'm like, I want to have this baby. And they're just like, every single appointment, it's like, these are your choices. They just assumed that I didn't want, or like adoption.
Exactly.
All those things. And I'm like, yeah, no, I want to be pregnant.
Yeah. I still get the comments about like, you're way too young to have kids, after I've like mentioned I have kids, or I'm a mom. And recently I've started saying, well, better to have my hands full than empty. So like, anytime I get the comments, oh, I don't know how you do that, or you look way too young, or like, I don't know why I don't like when people say, oh, well, you've got your hands full. That's just one that bothers me.
It's not endearing at all.
No, and so I always say, better to have my hands full than empty. And
that's a good response.
Kind of shuts them up and makes them realize, like, I take this seriously. I'm not just having kids and just...
They're not an accessory.
Exactly. Like, they are the most important thing in my life. They are my purpose. They are the reason why I'm doing everything that I do. It's not just a fun little thing for me to have kids. It's like daily work, you know?
Exactly.
Like, in every way has shaped me into being a better person. I feel like I wasn't prepared for the amount of like mirroring that came up. So the second I got pregnant and had a baby, like,
wait, elaborate.
Like, the amount of shit I was going to be faced with that I had to deal with,
like, you know? All in one time, like
all your traumas, all your problems,
yes,
everything comes up and you are just forced to deal with it all. I don't think I was prepared for that.
I definitely was not either. And I'm still, to this day, I mean, every single stage, like newborn stage, you're like faced with some whatever that brings up for you. And then it's like when they're toddlers and they're pushing boundaries and like spilling things, like that brings up another thing. And then every
it's weird.
stage.
It's kind of like walking through Well, I guess maybe if you're self-aware enough, it's kind of like walking through your life.
Yeah.
Again, as an adult.
You see yourself in your kids.
Yeah.
Like I'll be like, I was his age when this happened to me. Mm-hmm. And then realizing that's really young.
Mm-hmm. I think that has been one of like the biggest sources of heartbreak and grief. Oh my God, being pregnant, then like having a newborn and being like, how was I this little baby and my parents couldn't love me well? Like, how was I as helpless and vulnerable as this little tiny baby that literally I just birthed and my parents couldn't offer me anything?
Yeah.
You know?
It's
like
painful.
That, it was so painful. Like, I was not prepared for that at all.
I don't think you can prepare for that until you witness that. And then it's like, you're so happy that you get to give this to your kid, but you're also giving something you don't have experience receiving. Mm-hmm. So like you're pulling out of nothing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's also easy for you to pull from nothing. Because like I always make the excuse for my parents of like, well, maybe they didn't have that growing up, or maybe, you know, but you can only say that for so many things.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at some point you've got to just like step up.
I had this conversation with my mom recently where we were talking about parenting, and she kind of makes that excuse for herself a lot, which I do allow a lot of grace. Like my mom had a very hard situation. Like she was just dealing with a lot.
No, our parents especially did not have it easy.
No, not at all. So I give a lot of grace, and I always try to make sure she knows that I appreciate what she did do. But that's an excuse a lot of the time. It was like, well, how was I supposed to know to do this when I didn't have that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I didn't have that, and I know how to do this. So like it takes a little bit of self-reflection and willingness to like look at yourself honestly and then work on it. Mm-hmm. But at some point, somebody who's never been taught that learns to do it and give.
Yeah. We definitely have it a little bit easier when it comes to like resources. Now we've got like studies showing that this is bad for kids or whatever, whereas they had the opposite of like, it's good for kids to cry it out, and it's good for kids to be spanked. I don't know, like these crazy things. I know that there must have been some kind of intuitive thing being like, this feels wrong. Mm-hmm. Right? This feels wrong. But yeah, I do have grace. I do have a lot of grace for them. But and I also, yes, I have a lot of moments where I'm like, oh, I'm so upset that my parents failed at doing this. And then I have so much grace for my mom, and I'll be like, now I understand why she was so overstimulated all the time. Mm-hmm. Or now I understand why she like expected me to have certain things done, because like she was doing so much and like working and raising kids and doing that. It's a lot. So like it made me more empathetic towards my mom, at the same time that it made me also more angry. And I think that's the beautiful thing about becoming a mom too, is that it really, there was the Call Her Daddy episode where Ellen was on there from Grey's Anatomy, and she said it cracks you open and you just become this like ever evolving, multifaceted person, and you can feel multiple things at one time. I could not relate more to that. Yeah, no, that's so accurate. And I think that's what's hard to explain to people who've not experienced motherhood or parenthood, I guess. Yeah. Like being able to balance all of these different, there's so much resentment, there's so much anger that comes up, there's so much grief, there's so much heartbreak, there's so much love, there's so much joy, there's so much peace, there's so much fulfillment. And you can have all of those things and overall say that you enjoy being a mom. And you can also, even if you lose your shit, even if you do. And I think like we've seen lately with like TikTok and stuff with like the Chapel Roan stuff. I don't even know if that's how you say her name. I think so. Yeah, I don't know. She's like witnessing her friends seeming like they hate being parents. Oh, that's been everywhere, and I've hated that whole clip. I hate it. I know. Well, I think you said something good about that. Do you want to delve into that? Yeah, well, and I didn't watch the full episode, but from the clip that's been going around and from what everybody's talking about, she was saying that every friend she has that's a parent is in hell. Like, they're all miserable. I guess maybe as a single person, I would, like, if I hadn't had any kids, maybe I would think similarly. I don't know. But from going through that experience, I don't understand why it's so hard to explain that we're not in hell. We love
everything. And if we had more support in our journey of motherhood, it would be the most incredible thing. But the thing that's lacking is support.
Yeah.
It's not that we're lacking joy or peace or fulfillment or anything like that. We're lacking the support that we need to literally bring a human and create them and bring them into this world. Like, it's so mind-boggling to me that women, mothers, are the only portal between the spiritual and physical world. We take a soul and bring them into this world, and then our society is like, you should go back to work in 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And like, why do you need any help? Like, what's the big deal?
You were made to do this.
Yeah, it's so insane to me that like that's where we're at. That's crazy.
And our focus should be on that baby. And if you are able to not focus on the laundry and the work and the finances and people not showing up to cook for you or help you clean, or I don't know, God forbid, just like have a conversation with you and listen to you without judgment, being like, this is hard and I'm feeling sad without being judged. And the sad thing is, I feel like I've received the most amount of hate and criticism and judgment from other women.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, yes, here and there from men, but it's been so disappointing that the majority of this is coming from women.
That has been my experience also from women, and especially women close to you.
Yes. And like, other moms. I'm like, you know what this is like, but you want other people to suffer?
That was so shocking to me when I had my first, and then again when I had my second, was like, wow, all of these women around me who've been through this aren't showing up.
Yep.
And like, ever since I've had a kid and I know what that's like, I have grace for people who have never experienced it and don't know the full extent of what it's like, and they don't know maybe how to show up. You know, that is what it is. But ever since I've had a kid, the way I show up for a new postpartum mom is so different.
Yep.
And
even just how you speak to them. It's like, if somebody's pregnant and I'm like, oh, I have an issue with whatever is going on in our lives, I'll be like, this is not the time. And nothing trumps.
You
like,
recognize that this is like, first of all, it's like a sacred time. Like, this is so special. They're literally creating a human. And this is such a vulnerable time.
And
like,
whatever they're feeling, their baby's feeling too.
Yeah,
so I'm
exactly. Like it's so vulnerable, and they need to be treated with so much care and so much love and so much empathy. Yeah, I remember when I had Evie, I was just so shocked. Like, so shocked. Because one, obviously you have your hormones dropping and going kind of crazy. And then you have a dinner plate sized wound inside of you from birthing a human. And then on top of it, like, I didn't have any family that showed up. You know, like, there was a lot of congratulations texts. There was a lot of like, wow, we can't wait to meet her. And there were like a lot of people that came and met her. But then that was it. Like, there was no follow-up. There was no support. There was no like, how do we help you transition this? Like, I just brought a soul into this world and there's no support. Like,
I'm like,
it was
shell
so
shocked.
shocking. Yeah.
Shell
honestly.
I'm sitting there and I'm like, should it be this hard? Am I doing something wrong? There's no women offering advice or like like advice outside of like what clothes to or what diapers to use, or like genuine advice on how I'm feeling and how to get through that.
I remember during the postpartum time, because I was so unprepared for it, because when I was pregnant, obviously there were a lot of conversations around having a baby and what to expect, but they were all like this, oh my gosh, it's going to be so amazing and you're going to love it. And there were no conversations about the fact that like postpartum was going to be extremely hard and extremely exhausting. You know, you could be feeling all these different types of ways and you need support in these ways. Like, there was no preparation at all.
No.
And it felt so uncomfortable to even start the conversations. But I remember being like a week postpartum and texting my sisters and being like, can anybody tell me what nursing bras to wear? Because like, I don't know what to do. Like, I have not had a baby. I don't know what to do. I can't find anything
nobody tells
that's
you
working.
Nobody tells you your boobs are going to go from like A's to D's.
Exactly. I was like, I went from like a C to quadruple D, what am I doing? And where do I find a nursing bra? And also, how do I nurse my baby? And also,
what do I wear?
Yeah, what do I wear? How do I go out in public? How do I act like normal? You know, like there was such a huge shift that I was like, what do I
walking around like, do they know what happened to me?
Yeah.
Do they know what happened to me? It is, I think, to summarize postpartum, if I had to summarize my first postpartum, it was disappointing. Disappointing. And I felt
it was so heartbreaking, honestly.
Yes. And it was like, I think the most heartbreaking thing to me was the moms around me were so useless.
Yeah.
Like I felt so unsupported. I felt so, I mean, yeah, people would come see the baby or be like, I can hold him while you shower or whatever. It was like, could you either sit down and have a conversation with me or drop off food and let me figure out how to latch this baby.
Yeah.
Do the other things and let me focus on the baby. That's all I wanted, really.
Yeah.
Yes, I want people to come meet the baby. Yes, I want people to like, I want him to be surrounded by people that love him. But I really just, I want to feel cared about.
Yeah.
And I don't want people to be making comments about my body right away. I mean, I think what was so shocking to me was like how quickly people expect you to not look like you had a baby. It's like, the baby's out. It's been 24 hours. Yep. Suck it in.
I remember people saying, yeah, they wouldn't even necessarily insult, but just saying things like, you look so different, or, you know, you'll go back to yourself.
You'll be fine. Don't worry.
Like,
you'll bounce back.
Yeah. And I was in the absolute trenches, like I've never been before.
I remember being worried about how much I'm eating and like what I'm eating and making sure, like not in the sense of like, I need to eat things that are nourishing me.
No, I was on a keto diet postpartum.
Yeah. I was like, how can I lose the weight the quickest? And there was like just a bunch of hacks. And I remember being like, I need breastfeeding to work because I need to lose weight.
Exactly.
I gained so much weight breastfeeding. Yeah. I don't know who is putting that out there. I know some bodies probably do that.
Yeah.
I've seen it like in my own personal life. That was not the case for me.
No, that never happened for me either.
No.
That didn't.
My body held on for dear life.
Because when I was breastfeeding, I was like, let me eat 3 times the amount of a man.
Yes. Like pregnancy hunger, it's not even comparable to breastfeeding hunger.
No.
I was starving. I was a pit.
Yeah.
A bottomless pit.
Which was, it just happened to line up with the time when you were like completely disabled basically and unable to cook or unwilling to get up and cook 3 meals a day. I remember being postpartum and like surviving on granola bars.
Yes.
Because I didn't know what to expect postpartum, and then I didn't have anyone like step in and bring food. I had one sister that brought me some food, and aside from that, that was it. Like I had banana bread. I was surviving off of banana bread postpartum because I didn't like expect to not have the energy to stand up.
No.
You know?
No.
Like I didn't expect that. And then, well, I think that you kind of had the same experience where like you didn't have Caleb there.
No, Caleb was gone.
Postpartum because
he left like 3 days after I had Isaac.
Yeah. And so.
And then he was gone for months, 3 months. So I had literally the like most vulnerable time postpartum.
Yeah.
He was gone.
Because that was similar. I mean, my ex was there at night after work, but like he was gone all day. He went back to work within a week and was gone all day and was completely unavailable. So, you know, there wasn't any amount of
even
help.
Just on that. I mean, like the people around you not consulting him becoming a father and being like, yeah, you can go back to work after a week.
Yeah, everybody was
She's
like,
got
oh, yeah, it'll be okay. It'll be cool. It'll be fine. And I, like, it sounds kind of silly and naive, but I wasn't anticipating dealing with the level of postpartum depression and anxiety that I did. Like that was again not something that was talked about. So like I didn't expect that on top of being exhausted and just having birthed a kid and not having any energy. I was also going to be like the most depressed and anxious person I've ever been. That it was like debilitating, you know?
Do you think postpartum depression was like in the few times that it was mentioned in your life? Do you think it was mentioned in like it happens to like certain women and then you kind of internalize that as like someone who has something wrong with them?
Yeah. Well, it really wasn't mentioned. Like, it really was not talked about at all. I hadn't even, like, the whole conversation around depression and anxiety wasn't really talked about. So I didn't even understand that postpartum depression was really a thing, aside from my OBs maybe being like, this can happen, or like at the 6-week checkup, they're like, how are you feeling? And you have to check off all the answers, and I lied on all of them.
Oh, always. I always lie. I'm like, they're going to take my baby away.
Exactly. Well, I heard so many horror stories of people getting their babies taken away instead of getting the support that they needed. So I just lied on everything. But there was no conversation around postpartum depression, and I don't know if my mom was just so dissociated or she genuinely never struggled with it, because we've had conversations around it since I've been out of the postpartum period. And she was like, there was one time where I almost had a breakdown. Like, that was her experience. And I was like, I was suicidal.
Yeah,
I was trying not to take my life every day.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't, oh my God, I cried. It was like so intense all the time. And she just did not relate to that at all.
They won't talk about it, and then when they do, they drop like the darkest of lore on you of like, actually I just wanted to drive my car off a cliff.
Well, yeah, I remember I think when I was postpartum with Evie, I don't know how the conversation got brought up. I think it was honestly because I didn't really have conversations about it until I was out of it, because I didn't even know what was going on. Like, there was such this like huge fog. Like, I didn't know what was happening. I was so like out of it mentally and emotionally, and I was just trying to survive, that I feel like I didn't have the conversations until I was out of the postpartum period. But I remember when talking about like, I dealt with extreme postpartum depression and anxiety with Evie, one of my sisters being like, I also had that with my second, and I wanted to like, drive my car into the tree. And I was like, why did nobody mention that this could be something that happens?
When did we stop like coming together as women and just like sharing our stories? Like, when did that stop? The Puritan time when we got told we were witches? Like, what? Can we get back to that, please?
Exactly, because like there's so much wisdom that is not being transferred to women who would really benefit from it. That is the natural transfer of women wisdom that happens.
Yes.
When women are talking about their experience and like leading other young women through that and supporting them through it.
Yep. On that topic, I think we've sent this video back and forth to each other of matrescence. Have you heard of that?
No, but I want to hear more.
It's like the process of the transformation into motherhood. And it's like there's a genuine rebirth. I want to look up the actual definition of this.
I've never heard it put like that. Like, I've heard
there's like a woman who's on social media who's like so big into this. It just says like the Cambridge Dictionary just says the process of becoming a mother. Those physical, physiological, emotional changes that you go through after the birth of your child now have a name, matrescence.
Okay. I like that.
Shifting identity. So it goes into the stages of it, the developmental stage. So it starts and it happens with each child. So it's not like when you first become a mom and then that's it. It's every single pregnancy you go through and birth you go through is its own matrescence, like its own journey. It says, very important, it's not a clinical condition or a disease. It's a normal developmental process. Yes. Yeah, it's just, I feel like it's more spiritual than we give it credit to. Like, it's a very, very spiritual time.
Yeah.
I just remember being postpartum and being like, I just felt like a little kid. Like, I just want to be taken care of. I just want somebody to cook for me and to like tell me nice things. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, it was so crazy, but at the same time, it feels so hard to ask for those things, because you can kind of recognize it when you're outside of it. But when you're in it, you don't even necessarily know what you need, and when there's nobody offering anything, then you're like, people would say, let me know if you need something. And you're like, I don't know what I need. But really, you just needed to be taken care of. As
the
women
basics
had always been.
I think we like overthink it, and we'll like think of like an elaborate gift or something. And it's like, in reality, we just want to like sit down and have a conversation with you and like not care that we haven't like brushed our hair, or that like just showing up like as as we are. Yeah. And having adult conversation, and maybe even just talking about those like feelings of sadness and whatnot. And maybe we wouldn't have felt those feelings if we actually had people around us.
Yeah, I remember when Evie was a bit older and I was starting to take her to things like play groups and like, you know, just socializing more with friends and family and whatever groups. I remember being like, I was finally coming out of that postpartum fog, and I was like, I could never, ever have another kid. Absolutely not. Particularly my family would be like, that you'll get over that. Like, why would you say that? You'll have more kids, you know?
Eventually.
Like, that was a huge, like, they would always disagree with me on that and be like, oh, you just don't know.
Instead of asking why you felt that way.
Yeah, and I felt so insane because I was like, I had the worst time ever. You know, I had this baby that I loved, but I had the worst time ever birthing and then caring for this baby postpartum. Like, I could never do that again. Yeah, there was no question of like, why do you feel like that? Or what do you need from us? It was just like, haha, you'll get over it. Next time, like, you'll forget about this in a year and it'll be different next time.
Yeah.
I think I felt like more resentment then than I ever have for particularly the women around me who were mothers and have been through that and know what it's like and know it's not okay to like leave a mom, especially a first time mom, hanging like that, you know? Like,
they will.
Yeah.
They will. I remember when I was, I think, 3 weeks postpartum. Around that time, like, when you first come home with the baby, they're just kind of like sleepy. 3 weeks was insane. Like, and my baby had colic. So crying constantly. And to the point where I was like, you know, they always tell you like the wake windows for the newborns, and it was like 30 to 60 minutes or something, and then they go back to sleep. He would not sleep the entire day. Like, I was like, something's wrong. I took him to the pediatrician multiple times, and then it was like, maybe supplement with formula, maybe you cut out dairy or cut out this or cut out that. So I'm like trying to manage researching what foods to cut out and grocery shopping differently. Also like managing this crying baby and literally having no help. I remember I didn't sleep for 72 hours and I started hallucinating. Like, I was like in my rocking chair and I'm like, this is not safe. Like, I'm not being safe right now. And everyone who knows me knows I don't drive. I hate driving. I'm terrified of it. I put the baby in a car seat and I drove to my mother-in-law's house and I dropped the baby off. Like, I dropped Isaac off when he was like 3 weeks old. I'm like going to start crying thinking about this. But he was so little. And I remember I just dropped him off and I don't remember how I got there. And I don't remember how I got back home. I just left him there. And I think instead of like somebody taking the baby at that moment, maybe I did need somebody to just take him so I can sleep. And I gave him to my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law, and they had him for that night. And I slept for like 5 hours, and then I woke up the next day and I had mastitis.
Oh my God.
Because I didn't like breastfeed him. So I was just like, I just felt so helpless. And I remember thinking like, they must think I'm such a bad mom because I just left him. Like, how could I walk away from my baby? But it was horrible.
I remember the first time I left Evie when I was, also very, very newly postpartum. What is it with the mother-in-laws? Left her with my mother-in-law, and we had talked about it, and she was more than willing to babysit, but did think it was wrong that I was leaving the baby with her, and it wasn't for that long, but it was for a short period of time. We were just about to leave. It was for my sister's birthday. I was like, we need to just go and get out of the house, and like, it was an attempt to like regain sanity for a couple hours. It felt like a good excuse to do that. Right before we walked out, she goes, I just need to ask you, like, if the baby dies in my care, or if you guys, no, she said, if you guys die when you're out tonight, who does the baby go to? And I was like a week and a half postpartum, maybe 2 weeks postpartum.
You're like, now I don't even want to go.
And I was just like, wow. So then any time after that I left the baby with anyone, I was like, I am the worst mom in the world. Like, I cannot believe that I'm leaving my baby because I could die. And then who's my baby going to go to? Like, there was so much guilt and shame around leaving your kid or like asking for help or like trying to do what you should do and what you need to do to like survive that.
The self-care becomes more stressful than just like staying at home.
Yeah, exactly. Like, God forbid you have somebody babysit for a little while. God forbid you're not nursing your baby the entire night. Like,
or it's family, like somebody that's like, that's a fellow mom. So like somebody who understands that feeling. You should be able to walk away for a couple hours.
Yeah. I think I was not prepared for the guilt and shame that would come with being a mom and every decision you're making. Like, your biggest haters are really your family and friends. Like, I remember with Evie not being able to breastfeed for longer than like 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
Everybody, not everybody, but
seems like everybody.
It felt like everybody was like, oh, why can't you breastfeed? Why? Like, what is the problem? It's the best
thing you could possibly do for your child.
Yeah, like, it is the best. You really can't power through this. Like, can't you just get another lactation consultant? Can't you just like figure this out? And like, oh my God, the amount of guilt and shame that came with that was absolutely insane. I remember people like sending me reels about like why formula is bad for kids and why you shouldn't do that. And I was like,
all the articles.
Yeah. And I was like 4 weeks postpartum, like, okay, well, I'm literally trying to keep this baby alive.
She's going to starve.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not breastfeeding her. She's going to starve. Let me give her the next best thing. And then they were like, yeah, it was crazy, the amount of hate that came from moms.
I got the comments too because I ended up getting so anemic that I was like, and I'm trying to power through.
I was also so anemic. I remember when I was talking about that during my pregnancy, which is why I kind of thought that like particularly the people I was talking about these problems with would show up postpartum in like throughout my whole pregnancy, being like, yeah, I often get to the point where like I can no longer stand up. I just like pass out or I just have to lay down and I don't have the energy to like sit up in bed. And they were like, oh, that's crazy. And I was like, yeah, it's because I'm so insanely anemic and my doctor just didn't think that we should be doing anything about it and like kept telling me I was fine. And so I thought like those people would be like, oh, she really needs help. Like,
well, now she just lost an insane amount of blood.
Yeah.
During the delivery.
Yeah.
And now it's like weeks later, she's trying to build that up. Obviously, you're getting more depleted by breastfeeding, not sleeping, not eating properly. Granola bars don't have iron in them.
I don't think I saw any red meat for 6 weeks postpartum because I couldn't cook. No.
It's so disturbing.
But you were saying you stopped breastfeeding because you were so anemic.
Yes. I started combo feeding pretty early on, just like supplementing with formula here and there. I was so guilty. I got a lot of comments from my own mom and from like other family members, and it was like we couldn't afford to formula feed.
Oh yeah.
We couldn't afford it. Formula is so expensive. We couldn't afford to. And I'm like, I can't afford to breastfeed. To be passing out and useless and have my husband come home from work all the time because
that's what it was like I couldn't afford to be completely debilitated because I'm breastfeeding this kid.
Like it wasn't enough that I'm like going to the hospital and like I got so anemic I needed blood transfusion. That wasn't enough. It was I needed to somehow be able to like find it in me as this mom to just make it happen. Yeah. Just stop.
Yeah.
Just make it work.
It was so crazy, like being met with the expectations that people had of like, you really can't figure that out. Like you can't like make that work. A lot of it had to do with the whole nutrition side of it and like not really making enough milk or like not being able to stay awake through the night and whatever, all these different things. But like I didn't even tell most of the people the reason why I wasn't breastfeeding. So I was like being met with all these expectations of like, can't you just like make it work? Like, can't you? I was in such extreme pain constantly that I was like, I don't want to hate my baby because she has to eat. Yes. Like I can't resent her because she needs to eat. So if that means I need to give her formula, that's what that means.
I used to dread every time he would like wake up. I'm like, I have to feed him. And I remember the only advice I got was bite on a cloth.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Bite on a cloth, just anything to just like, you just got to power through it. Now it's like, oh, that's not normal, like seeing a lactation consultant, whatever about that. It's not something I think I'll ever get used to. This time around, it was much easier for me to continue breastfeeding. I could not have breastfed the first time.
No.
There's no way.
I also just feel like you really never, like, everything comes up when you have kids, and you never know why somebody's doing or not doing what they choose. So, like, as moms, as women, I mean, everybody really, but particularly as moms, like, knowing what that's like, we need to stop just expecting everyone to do things the way we think we should. Yeah. And instead, like, start meeting moms where they're at. Yeah. And start supporting them. So
now it's like the opposite. Because, like, I remember social media being like you need to breastfeed, you need to whatever. And then this time, like, I've been more successful with it. It's much easier this time around. I had way more support this time around. That's like the number one thing. Now I'm like seeing people that are like, you don't need some kind of award for breastfeeding, or you don't need, like, there's like constant shame on both sides. Like, oh, mine, every time you like celebrate a milestone with breastfeeding, it's like, there's always somebody in the comments or like someone in your life that's like, well, I had to formula feed and fed his best.
Like, I don't know why we can't just meet women where they're at and support them.
And if someone is choosing a certain thing and you feel judgment about it, which is like, that's a normal human thing, whatever, you feel judgment about it, why don't you get curious?
Exactly.
That's the remedy for it. It's just like finding out, like, oh, I found out Steph is not breastfeeding. Like, what made you stop? Like, did you...
Yeah, I remember.
Get curious.
Like, I remember, I think you were the only person that I actually told, like, why I wasn't breastfeeding. Like, everybody else was just like, oh, like, their immediate response was like, well, can't you, do this? Can't you try that? Maybe you should eat these lactation cookies and stuff. And, like, it wasn't about that for me. Like, it was just about what it was bringing up and, like, the flashbacks it was giving me. Yeah. Because of sexual trauma. Like, it wasn't about... do I have a milk supply?
Nobody would bother just like...
No. So I'm getting all these like videos sent to me of like how to boost your milk supply. And I was like, okay, great. That doesn't help.
How do I get the memories that are flashing through my head out of my head?
Like that actually doesn't... If somebody was curious, then maybe they could have offered advice or support. Other than you, there was not a single person, and there were a lot of conversations around why I wasn't breastfeeding or that I wasn't breastfeeding, but there was not a single person that was curious about what it was about. It was just like, well, I have this opinion that it should be this way, so you should do that. Like, if you aren't someone who is a mom, or maybe you are a mom and you're trying to think of how to show up better, I think honestly being curious about, I mean, that's the solution in a lot of areas of life, really but particularly for a postpartum mom who's dealing with a lot, who might even need you to kind of pry a bit and help her find what she's thinking or doing or feeling. Being curious about their experience, being curious about how they're doing, being curious about what they want to do or what this is like for them will take you a lot farther than just offering your unsolicited advice.
If someone sat down with you and found out that was the reason, it's like, yes, you're going through these like trauma flashbacks while you're like breastfeeding your kid, and then you're feeling angry because it's so painful and it's bringing up all those memories. You're wanting to distance yourself from your kid and you're not feeling that connection. Yeah, I remember that everybody is like it's so dreamy, it's so beautiful, it's so this, and I remember that took a while for me. Yeah,
I remember like when I was postpartum with both of them, and people being like, well, how are you going to connect with your baby if you're not breastfeeding? Like, the connection is everything. Can't you just like comfort breastfeed? Like, can't you do this? And I was like, you don't understand that, like, this, we are not connecting, we are not bonding this way. Like, this is the opposite. Yeah, like I was never able to connect more than when I wasn't breastfeeding. Yes. And I was able to like appreciate the time that I got to feed my baby. Yes. Or have her sleep in my arms,
It's so true. I loved I loved those moments of like not having to worry about if he's eating enough or if he's getting enough. Just sitting there and giving him a bottle. I remember that was the best. Like rocking them in the chair before bedtime. Me and Caleb used to fight over who would get that, like the dream feed. Loved doing that. And I loved also being able to have Caleb be involved in the feeding and like seeing them bond over that. But I did not feel one time that my kid was like lacking in some way or anything like that. There was actually this time around, I remember struggling a few times with breastfeeding in the beginning where it was so painful. It was easier than the first time, but still had the like bleeding and had all that stuff. And there was a few times where I had Caleb supplement formula and it ate me alive. And I remember watching, it was actually Shawn Johnson, who she's got a podcast with her husband, and she was talking about, she also struggled with breastfeeding her the first time around. She said something like, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but she's an Olympian. She's a gold medalist. And she's like, I haven't had a drop of breast milk and I won the Olympics.
So,
and I was really? Like, I think there's like something that matters more. And that is like having a present parent and having like parents who are well rested and who show up for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That will do way more for my kid than them remembering this like drop of breast milk that they got.
Yeah.
It's not to discredit breast milk at all, because it is incredible. It's magical. Incredible. The fact that you can make this perfectly curated milk for this child, depending on their needs and their wants during that time, that is insane. It will never not be incredible to me.
Oh yeah, but that's again just meeting women where they're at. If they're breastfeeding, celebrate that. If they're formula feeding, celebrate that. Just meet them where they're at. Get curious about what they want to do, what they can do, what they need to do, and support them through that. Women who new moms shouldn't have to constantly explain themselves and their choices and their actions, while also dealing with their hormones going absolutely insane and their body changing and their entire life changing and their identity shifting. Like, we shouldn't feel the need to explain every action we're taking.
No. And there's so much natural judgment comes up, whether that's from us being taught by our moms, and like that voice is kind of like in the back, like my brain will automatically go to that sometimes, or like I'll like judge something immediately, and it's because my mom also did that, my parents did that. And the problem is like, it's not that you're having those thoughts, it's acting on those thoughts. So if you're feeling those judgments, that's normal. Skip the guilt on that and just get curious, and that will remedy the situation for you. It'll remedy the judgment for you.
Yeah.
Because we all question and judge when somebody's doing things differently than we have been. And like, we genuinely don't know what they're going through with that kid. They have that kid specific to them, and like each kid is completely different. And you know what I mean?
I felt like I know what you mean. Each pregnancy is so different. Like,
each baby is different.
You
so
can't
like,
assume where anybody's at.
Yeah, or even with sleep training, for example. This baby, my second baby, is so much easier for me to, is like so much more receptive to sleep training. Some kids are harder. Yeah. Like, they just don't respond well to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this idea that like if you parent exactly like this other mom who told you to parent like this and your kid will be good, like that's just not real. You've got to realize that like you're bringing a whole new soul onto this earth. They don't care what you saw on TikTok.
They don't care.
They don't care what you've heard. They don't care what mom told you what. They're gonna be their own person, and you've got to learn to just adapt. That's something that like both of us have done well, and like have kind of just learned over the years, and honestly probably have learned from each other, seeing our kids are so different. But like, we've just had to learn that like some things don't work for our kids. Some things do, some things don't, and you just got to be able to adapt and move on. And
some tips will work like a dream, and some tips will absolutely be a fail.
From first to second, like a lot of the stereotypes are true. Like, my first was a dream in that she ate well, she slept well, she behaves so well, she's always really respected and listened to us. Like, she, from the time she was a baby, would sit down and have conversations or sit through stories and whatever. She was just so patient, so understanding.
She slept really well too.
Now Goldie is like, I mean, she does eat pretty well and sleeps pretty well, but like, she has a completely different personality, and I cannot parent her the same way I did Evie, because she will just yell no. Like, she will stand up and scream at me, you know? So you gotta take different approaches.
I completely agree. And I had the opposite experience. My first was really hard. Yeah. It was just, honestly, I think it was harder because I was trying to fit him into this like mold, like all these like basic parenting tips and stuff, like sleep training that really wasn't working in that way. And like, he just needed a little bit more time. And like, I was also not the best version of myself at that time. So like, he's also feeling that. He's feeling my stress. He can't help that. And my second is like way more relaxed. He's a better sleeper than he was. He's not colicky this time. It's not to say either that like one kid's better than the other. It's like they're both completely different kids and they just needed different things. And you need to be able to adjust, or else it's going to be even harder for you to go through that motherhood journey.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like both of us, the second time around, have been able to understand and prioritize our own needs a lot more. Like with my first, I didn't think it was right for me to spend any time away from her. I could not do anything that was considered self-care. Yeah. I could not take time for myself. I wasn't like nourishing myself. I wasn't prioritizing my mental health. I felt so guilty and felt like that was so wrong. As she got older, I got a little bit better with that. And then with my second, saw how much good comes from prioritizing myself and my needs. Like making sure I'm taken care of so that I can show up in a better way.
It really stuck for me that it's quality over quantity. It wasn't how much time I was spending with him as much as it was how present I was during that time.
I saw a video, well, I've seen this quite a few times now, quoting a study, which I haven't looked at the study myself. I need to go back and look at it. But it was saying that in order to have like a secure attachment and a healthy relationship with your parent, a child needs a present parent 30% of the time, which is not a lot.
They really failed us.
It's really not a lot. 30%, like I'm holding myself to a 98% standard. Yeah. Like, I feel bad if it's not constant that I'm present. I feel bad if I have to tap out for a minute or put on Bluey so that I can go breathe. Yes. But it's only 30% of the time that kids need a present parent in order to have a secure, healthy attachment and relationship.
I remember feeling so guilty with my oldest starting school, and I was like, he's gone 4 days a week, 8 to 2:30 or something. And I was like, we're not going to be as like bonded, and it's just, he's not going to have like a secure attachment. He and I had such quality time together. Like I got to have that time away from him to like focus and pour into myself. And I was able to show up for him.
Yeah, so that when he came home, you were able to be a much better parent.
He got such a fun, relaxed mom in comparison to me being home with him all day. Oh my gosh, it was better for him to be going away for those hours and being home with him for like, I get like a couple hours with him when he gets home, and the weekends I was able to be so much more present. I was a way better mom. I was a way better wife, which also made me a better mom. Like it was just better all around. So many women themselves, like if you treat a pregnant woman differently, if you're like, oh, just like take it easy, like I'll get this for you. They like get offended. Like I can do it. Oh yeah, I can do that. And it's like, when did we take away the like magic and softness and vulnerability of like being pregnant?
This is reminding me of my pregnancy.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking of. It's like other people just being like, they can do it. They should be treated the same. No, they shouldn't. Yeah, they should be treated like absolute queens. We should kiss the floor they walk on. What? Yeah,
that was such an interesting experience in pregnancy for me, because that was obviously the first pregnancy where I did have support and somebody around me like checking in and somebody like supporting me through it. And then to have still the mass amount of people who were not doing that and who thought that was kind of insane. Yeah. Was just such an interesting experience, because I agreed with you and that I felt like it's natural. Yes. I shouldn't be taking on as much work as I am.
Like you need that reminder to like slow down a little bit.
Like that when I had that reminder, it felt, yeah, that's right. I should be taking care of myself more. I should slow down. I should relax.
There's just like this obsession with you're like equal to everybody around you and you can do all the things you did before. And like, maybe, sure.
That's true, but you shouldn't have to.
You're also better than people.
Yeah.
Like you are literally growing a human being. Like just how much goes into a life being created. It's insane. Mm-hmm. It's insane. The fact that you got pregnant, the fact that you're sustaining this pregnancy is a miracle in itself. So no, I will not be treating you normally.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal.
That was something that I like had to adjust to with having Goldie and being pregnant with her and like having you treat me that way.
But like, what is that?
It was so strange, honestly. I don't know. It was so odd.
Like, why are you going to get your own water when there are men in the room?
Yeah.
I'm
God
sorry.
forbid I ask for water. I remember like I mean, this has a lot more to do with my relationship than maybe my pregnancy, but I remember both you and Caleb being absolutely horrified by me asking for water.
And then being told
no. being told
to get it yourself.
Yeah, I remember like witnessing Caleb being like, "What?" Like, did you really just say that?
I thought that was a joke. I thought it was like, bring the cameras out.
Yeah.
I'm being punked right now. Yeah. There's no way. And then it was like, oh, actually, he's not moving.
No.
So Caleb would go and get it and be like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that was very eye-opening and very healing to see how Caleb treated me, but then treated you when you were pregnant. Like, that was just very eye-opening.
It was insane. And even, I think Caleb's grown a lot in that too, because the first pregnancy, he didn't even get to be around. Mm-hmm. And I think we've talked about it, like, there's more that he could have done for even from far away of just like, I don't know, little gifts or reminders or like just like having phone calls and being like, yeah, I did research this or I did, you know, there are things, but like when you're not nearby, I can understand how that is.
Mm-hmm. And it's your first time and it's all new and you don't know. Yeah.
And he's also not had the best role models for that either. So I have a lot of grace for him. But this time around, it was like, I think your pregnancy too kind of just like shifted gears too of like this person, he's like present for a pregnancy for the first time and just being like, oh, this is a huge deal. Yeah. And also going through as many miscarriages as we had been through, it was like, this is insane. The fact that somebody is, again, getting pregnant, sustaining the pregnancy, going through he's seen me go through all the mental stuff. Why is it not a big deal? Yeah. This is the biggest deal ever.
Yeah, it really is. I don't know why it's so hard to make people understand that it's such a big deal.
Like, you should be wearing dresses and be served like grapes constantly. Yeah. Just like being served snacks at all times. You just have like a catering company just like walk by and be like, do you want some? Do you want some?
You really should. I saw somebody say recently, like, it's so heartbreaking to raise kids in a society that hates children.
Oh my gosh.
And I've never felt that more. Like, it is so heartbreaking. And this is kind of shifting gears a little bit. But being out in public with my kids and seeing how they're treated, it's so sad. I remember when I was a little kid, and anytime I was out in public, like, old people would always stop and smile and talk to me and whatever. People do not look at my kids. If I go out in public, people will give them the nastiest look. People give me the nastiest look. There are no old people that stop and smile or say hi to kids. Like, that is so
Why do you think that is?
No. I don't know. I don't know if the pendulum just swung so far that now they feel afraid to talk to anybody's kids, but it also just feels like kids aren't respected at all.
They're like a nuisance.
They are a burden. They're a nuisance, which is interesting because, like, how is there such a disconnect between this child and the next generation of, like, humans on this earth?
Yeah.
Like, how are you disconnecting this child that's in the grocery store or the coffee shop right now from, like, the next politician, the next world leaders?
Yeah, they were babies. They had to be raised.
Like, it's so interesting that there is such a disconnect in people's mind and they're able to do that and treat them with such disrespect. I don't know. It's so
I hate
weird.
It. I hate
it's so
it.
wild.
It's like we expect kids to be able to know how to behave at like church or at a restaurant, at a grocery store. But in order for them to learn, they have to go there. They have to experience those tantrums there, and we got to work through them. There are also signs of healthy children It's normal. I remember Isaac having a tantrum like in the middle of like a market basket or something and getting like dirty looks from people. Oh, yeah. And I was like, don't you think I already feel bad? Like, do you think I want this? Like,
do you think I'm enjoying this?
Yeah. Clearly I'm struggling. Clearly I'm overstimulated. Clearly I want to abandon my cart and walk outside. But let's
choose to regulate instead.
Yes. I'm like, I've got to show up for this person. I'm not going to freak out because I'm expecting him to also calm down. I'm not going to freak out.
Yeah.
But you're giving me dirty looks and making me feel worse than I already feel. What is the point?
I have been involved in those conversations, like where people will make comments to me about another mom who's clearly going through something. And especially if I don't have my kids with me, people will be like, oh my God, I've heard like, oh my God, I can't believe she hasn't left yet. I can't believe she's still here. I can't believe she brought her kid here. And I have never, ever agreed with them and have always like said any comment I can to make them like understand that that's so wrong. And that's such like a disrespectful approach to the mother and the child. And like, how stupid of you to think that a woman shouldn't exist with a child in our world. Like, that's just so mind-boggling and so frustrating to me that that's like a hard concept to get across.
Yeah. Like, I heard the quote recently, again, with like this whole like Chapel Roan stuff. A lot of people were talking about how you're entitled to be child-free, but you're not entitled to a child-free world.
Yeah.
You don't get to exist in a world that doesn't have children. Unfortunately for you. That's not the case. These are little people.
If you want to exist in a child-free world, I'm sorry, but I do think there's something wrong.
Yes.
I think there's something fundamentally wrong with people who hate children and babies.
Yes.
That's so crazy.
It just tells me they're like immature and disconnected from themselves.
Because I think anybody can say someone who hates a puppy has got something wrong with them, or somebody who hates a kitten. Like, there's something wrong with you to hate something so vulnerable, so helpless.
God forbid you apply that to a human being.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I feel like that touches on the topic of like bringing your kids out and trying to get through your day and also teach them to be human beings and part of our society. You've got to incorporate them into society. You've got to take them out. You've got to...
Yeah, that's one thing that I have like adopted from the time I had Evie, was like ensuring that I brought my kids out and I helped them exist in this society and helped them learn, because one, it's easy to isolate yourself when you're having a hard time, and what harder time to go through than postpartum.
Yes.
So like all I wanted to do was stay inside and never speak to anyone ever again. But I'm raising a human, not just a baby. And it's important that they learn how to act and live and be and exist in our world.
Yeah.
That they're going to grow up in.
Socialize, make friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Conflict resolution, like all those things.
So that is one thing that I was really, really like insistent on, was always bringing her out and bringing her around people, which helped a bit with taking care of myself and balancing motherhood and life, because I used it to my advantage and now have girls that absolutely love sitting in a coffee shop.
Yes.
Like, that's the best thing. Or love sitting in a library.
Well, I think people want children that do that, but they don't want to put in the work to actually have those.
Oh yeah, we went through hell.
Yeah.
Like, I've gone through hell with them at coffee shops, but now they love it. All they want to do is go get bagels and coffee, or go on a walk, or go sit in a library, and it's incredible. But it takes it takes a while to get there. But that is something that definitely helped balance what I like and this new identity that I was taking on, and like how to become this new person that I know I am. I
think people discredit like the work that you do put in with the girls because they see that they're so well behaved, and that I'm
always so lucky.
Yes, it's always luck, and it's never. They never see you like. No, they never see. Yeah, they never see you again abandoning your cart so you can just go back home and never see the world again. That's how you feel. Yep. They never see you
putting in the work. And like we were talking about this earlier. My default is not to be the most patient, caring, understanding, loving, present parent, you know? So like the conversations, now that Evie's a toddler, the conversations and communication we have is so different and has evolved so much. The last thing I want to hear when I'm having a horrible day and like I'm losing my mind and need to tap out is my toddler being like, Mom, you really need to learn how to be more patient with me. Like that is the last thing I want to hear. Like it's the equivalent to somebody being like, calm down when you're losing your mind.
Yeah.
So those are the conversations we are having. And that's the environment that I've fostered and created, that she feels that she's respected enough and I value her opinion enough for her to be able to say, hey Mom, you need to be more patient with me, or you need to learn to be more understanding, or you need to learn whatever to be more kind, whatever the thing may be. Like I've fostered that environment, but what I hear in turn is like, wow, you're so lucky you have a patient kid. You're so lucky you have a kind kid. You're so lucky you have an understanding kid. That starts with me being kind and patient and understanding. I have to be the role model. I have to, on my worst days, still be kind and patient and understanding in order to now have a kid that is kind and patient and understanding.
Yeah, people see the fruits of your labor and they don't see the actual labor portion of it. And they're like, yeah, that's
love
just
this
luck.
Fruit.
Yeah, I love this fruit. I'll enjoy this fruit. But it's not like it's not anything you did. It couldn't possibly be anything that you did.
No.
Or just like, obviously again, we talked about kids have certain tendencies and like just the way they are in some ways. So like they can work in your favor or against. There are some kids who are very stubborn, like ours.
Yeah, like ours.
And we would bring him out and people would be like, he's so social. He loves to talk to people. We brought that kid everywhere because we didn't have help.
Yeah.
And people did babysit. Yeah, we didn't have a choice, but it worked out in our favor. Like we literally just had to trek through bringing him to events and bringing him to like work or bringing him to out all the time. Yeah, just all the time. He was always with us. Yep. And I think that was the best advice I got when I was pregnant, was from a veteran mom I like looked up to so much, who had twins, and she was like, her kids were just like overall just like such balanced humans. They were so kind, they were so empathetic. And I'm like, how did you do this? And her advice was, bring your kids everywhere.
That's so funny, because I asked a woman that right before I was pregnant. I asked her the same thing. She was a member at the country club that I was working at, and her son was just the kindest, most patient, most empathetic, respectful, polite boy I had ever met. Like he was just incredible, and he was very mature, but he was just overall incredible. And I said, like, at one point when he wasn't there with her, or maybe he'd walked away, I was like, what did you do? How did you end up with a child that is so incredible? I've never met a boy like this. She was like, I took him everywhere with me. Yeah. I had no choice. I mean, she did say in some cases she had a choice, but she chose not to have anyone step in. Like she had that kid with her and then modeled that behavior to him all the time. And you can see the result. Like you could see how well it worked and how much good it did for him. And now at that time he was maybe 8. It wasn't a burden to take him out when they wanted to go out and have a nice night. Yeah. Like it was, they loved having his company. They loved just taking him out, the 3 of them, and being able to go out to dinner or go out and whatever, have a fun day. It wasn't at all a burden, but they had put in so much work prior to get to that point.
It's very, very frustrating. Like people just discredit a lot. Even when you do put in the work, it's not, you're not given credit for it. But I do think that was the best advice I think I got. And it did get me through the fact that we didn't have help. So we had to suffer through those tantrums, and we're still working through those, you know. He's still a baby.
I feel like a lot of people, especially in my situation, if I'm meeting somebody new and I'm chatting with them about my life, and they hear that I am 23 and divorced with 2 kids, they have a lot of follow-up questions, but
as you do.
Yeah. Some of the first ones often like, not necessarily do you regret it, but like, do you wish things were different?
Yeah. Like
I think at one point maybe in the postpartum trenches I would have said yes, but now that I'm out of that, I don't think I would say yes.
Absolutely not.
I don't think I would change anything, because the person I am today absolutely would not exist had I not had kids. And maybe it would exist at 35 if I had kids at 30.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm the person I am at 23 because I had kids by 20. It kind of forced me to work through so much, forced me to grow in so many ways, forced me to get uncomfortable and deal with so much that maybe I never would have dealt with. And I really don't regret it at all.
No,
wish it could be different.
No, it was the best thing. And honestly, if you use it well and don't take the fact that you're raising kids for granted, like, I am so lucky, and I know that my kids always deserve better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they always deserve more than I'm giving them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always striving to give them the best that I possibly can. And just having that fire under me, they have given me motivation and drive like I have never experienced before. Like, I was already like kind of a go-getter and all of that. It's nothing
mm-hmm.
compared to now.
I think that's why like we relate so much on this, because we can be going through the hardest time of our lives and be like really, really struggling, but we'll both be damned if our kids don't have a better life than us and a better chance than us and more opportunity than us. Mm-hmm. And overall a better life.
Yes, like, I'm so determined.
Yeah, there is no stopping that from happening. Like,
no.
There's absolutely no way.
I remember, I think the fears that I had were that I wouldn't be able to get up in a career, I wouldn't be taken seriously, all these fears that I had, they made better because I have never, again, had more motivation, more drive, more purpose behind what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not just interested in making a bunch of money mm-hmm. and in like some soulless thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we could do that easily. Both of mm-hmm. us could both work jobs that make a lot of money. If I don't care about something and it's not worth my time away from them, mm-hmm. I'm not doing it. I'm really not doing it. I don't care. Like, I can't really be bought in that way.
It makes your goals and your ambitions very clear.
Yeah.
And that it makes it a lot easier to be like a lot more motivated.
Yes. Yeah. I really love the fact that it made me grow into something better than I had imagined for myself without kids. Because the vision I had for where I am right now at 25 was not to have kids mm-hmm. yet, to mm-hmm. like be climbing some corporate ladder or starting a business in some way. I wouldn't have even done that. I don't think I wouldn't have had the courage to do it.
No.
And everything that I do, I'm like, he's going to be so proud of me for doing this. Like, he's so used to us doing the things that we say we're going to do mm-hmm. that he was like, I said I wanted to open a cafe. I did it. I said I wanted to start a catering company. I did it. I just do the things that I'm passionate about. We bred dogs and mm-hmm. learned about the breed and did all of that. He joined the military. He like chased his dreams. And now it's like, my kid wanted a violin, and it was like, there's no violin stores that I know of. And he's like, you need to open a violin store. Like mm-hmm. in his head, it's like that simple. Like, okay.
Yeah, you go
there's
after
a market need.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I see the gap.
Yes.
We need a violin store right now.
Yes. I am the ideal customer.
Yeah. We set that expectation so high. Yeah, that probably never would have happened. Both of us, before becoming moms, we were very motivated, mm-hmm. but we weren't necessarily very selfless.
No.
Once you become a mom, it's not about you anymore.
No.
Like, this is not about me. I'm not going to go after what I want simply for my own pleasure, for mm-hmm. my own good. Like, this is about them and their future and what's going to benefit them the most.
And making a better life and world for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it definitely made me more self-perspective. It definitely shook that selfishness away.
It kind of, shatters your entire ego.
Yes.
Which was every great day. And we needed it.
Absolutely.
And we still do need it.
Yeah.
And it'll continue every single day.
I have full trust that my kids will challenge me.
Yep.
So
and
much more.
You.
This is just the beginning. Like, I know some like veteran mom is listening to this with like teenagers and adult children. They're like, yeah.
She's laughing at us.
Yeah. She's like, one day they'll see. They'll see. Mm-hmm. I think the place that I'm at right now with like advice and all of that is I love more than anything hearing people's stories. Mm-hmm. Every single person I've talked to, there's been similarities and there's been like stark differences, and there's been things to learn from every woman that I've spoken to about their experience and such. Mm-hmm. I now see it as a buffet. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to take what works for me and mm-hmm. put back what doesn't, and just mm-hmm. like kind of work my way through a buffet.
Don't put back in a buffet though.
Oh yeah, absolutely don't. That is not serve safe. Like, I don't have to keep, I can toss out. That's the word.
Yes.
Toss it out.
Put back the french fries. No, I get what you mean though.
Yes.
Sorry, my OCD kicked in.
Yes, absolutely. Oh man, it's like I'm like always like that's not serve safe.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to take the things that serve me and my children and do away with the things that I don't.
Well, I think that has a lot to do with why we're here and have this table and have this purpose and
conversation.
Like, we want to invite other women, obviously other men and women without children as well, but especially we have noticed how much a difference it makes when you invite other women to the conversation and meet them where they're at and get curious about what they're going through or what maybe they need or what has worked for them or what advice they have. So like opening this conversation up and inviting everybody into our table to offer advice or share stories or just relate.
Send some encouragement too. I think we definitely could use that too.
Yeah. But I feel like, that's why we're doing this, because we've seen how much good comes from that, even just in our own relationship and like our own friendship, like what a difference it made in our postpartum. Really there were some differences, but the main difference between having our first and having our second is that we had each other as friends who were there to meet us where we were at and show up when we needed it.
Absolutely.
And I think if every other mother could experience that and have that same amount of support, it would make a world of difference. Yeah. So if we could offer that support to any moms who are maybe in the trenches also, who would like to join us.
And if you want to send this episode to them, as a reminder for how they've abandoned you maybe, but it's still time. Yeah. There's still enough time for them to step up. Do it. We'll tell them off. Go do her laundry.
Send this to your mother-in-law. Yes.
Make her some food. Order some food for her if you can't cook. Please don't cook for her if you can't cook.
Don't send her a plant that she has to take care of.
No.
Please, God, no.
No. And if you're listening to this and you're pregnant, don't buy a plant. No. Oh my God. That was the worst. That and getting a new animal. I don't know what it is.
Your maternal instincts kick in as soon as you're pregnant and you're like, I need to keep things alive. Let me get a plant. Let me get an animal. Both of us did that.
And then they die and we're like,
well, not our animals.
Horrible.
Our animals didn't die.
No, the animals did not die. The animals are fine and healthy. The plants, they die. And then you feel bad about that. And I'm like, I didn't need that in my life. I didn't need that negativity in my life.
No. We really loved having you guys here for this episode, and you can find us on all social media platforms at Setting the Table Podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and comment. If you're watching on Spotify or even on YouTube, we would love if you could leave us a review. We would love to hear your thoughts, if you relate, if you have anything to add to it, if you have anything that you could really offer or bring to this conversation or this table. We'd love to hear it. And we'll see you next Friday at 6.